Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening from wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the world of Trans Am, the oldest road racing series in the United States, some 54 years of age. And today we are turning a new chapter for our series as we go into cyberspace and take on the world of esports. I'm Jonathan Green, and along with Ben Sissel, we will be guiding you through our first ever e-race, and somewhat appropriately, it is at Laguna Seca in California, one of America's most iconic circuits. A special thanks to Talk Esports, UMG, Assetto Corsa for developing the format for Trans Am, and it will continue to develop as we go on. We are currently in qualifying, and that gives me time to introduce Ben. Ben, looking forward to this, but it's going to be interesting. There are lots of rules, and they've got to obey them.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Simple rules. Each driver is piloting an equally prepared C7 Corvette set up to mimic a TA1 car. 2 races. Race 1 is 14 laps, then a 90-second reset. We reverse the grid in that reset with the top 10 finishers going to the back of the starting grid. Race 2 is 14 laps, just like the first race. Damage is on and will reset after each race. Each driver is allowed only 5 shortcuts out of the track limits before being penalized, and Darren and Jens will be the race directors of this race and can at any time serve a driver penalty. Back to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, and that's interesting because we've got damage on, so you will see potentially cars hitting each other accidentally, but that will slow the cars down, and as you say, there will be penalties for those that continue to break the rules, and that will add weight to the following round. This is an 8-round championship. We start here at Laguna Seca, and we hope in real life to join you in Monterey, California, one of my favorite places to go. Ooh, somebody going off there a little bit wide in qualifying as we head through Rainy Curve. Fantastic onboard pictures with one of the favorites, Tyler Kucera. But we've got drivers from all over the United States and even Hawaii. Roger Eagleton phoning it in, if you will, from Honolulu, Hawaii, and he too was one of our pre-season favorites. We did have a pre-season pilot race at Lime Rock. That was won by Cameron Lawrence, another one of the favorites. Roger Eagleton was in the top 5. Tyler Kucera, who has a fantastic rig. We'll talk about some of those setups in a moment. But currently you're watching qualifying with 6 minutes and 52 seconds to go. Really looking forward to this. And like I said, we've got drivers from all over the United States, from Las Vegas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and as I mentioned earlier, Hawaii. These are all professional race drivers. Would you say Ben, bar one being Mr. Archer?
Yeah, I say it's safe to call him a non-professional race car driver, but he has probably more experience in a sim and on track than anybody. He is Trans Am royalty. His dad is Bobby Archer. His uncle is Tommy Archer. He's been at the racetrack probably since before he was born. And I know we spoke to him yesterday, and his dad, Bobby, he said, was right behind him, talking in his ear, coaching him along. So I expect him to do really well. He's really fast in these sims, and he's going to give, hopefully, Tyler Kucera a run for his money.
Well, that's tough for Dylan Archer. He's in Keller, Texas right now, and he's racing effectively for TA Futures because his plan is to go Trans Am racing. He's been following his dad with you, Ben, at the SVRA. And talking of SVRA, wherever you're tuning in, if you're not tuning in on our SVRA or Trans Am apps, I would encourage you to download them because we'll give you all the updates of both the E-Championship and the Real Championship. We have a rescheduled Real Series, which we hope to get going later in the day. You can even see social distancing being done very well here at Laguna Seca. The boys from Scrap doing a very good job, and the new management putting Laguna Seca in top tip form for our race today. Perfect conditions high up in the hills of Monterey. We've been here all week. Ben and I did Pebble Beach golf course. I got a 66 virtually.
Yeah, you did pretty well. I lost my temper virtually and threw my putter into the pond. But we were just on board. We're following around Thomas Merrill right now, who is from Salinas, California, just over the hill. This is his home track. And he is always really fast here. He was fighting for the front in all of our practice races yesterday. So we expect to see him in the top 5 here in the qualifying.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, you'll know the names of Laguna Seca, of course. But this is a racetrack that's been here since 1957. It's one of the oldest tracks in America, and it's just perched above Monterey, California, one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And we mentioned, joking aside, Pebble Beach is just around the corner. Salinas, in fact, is the area where all the grapes and tomatoes and all the fruit that the world eats is picked. So it's a really beautiful spot on the California coast and a great place to go racing. And of course, this track is famous for its infamous turn, the Corkscrew. Some 6 floors down, over 130 feet. It drops right from the top of the hill, and it really is. We're approaching it now, but it's quite a death-defying piece of ground. When you look at it, actually, even on the virtual, Ben, it doesn't look as steep as we go through Rainy Curve, named after the great 3-time world champion MotoGP driver Wayne Rainey, who lives, 3 or 4 miles away, one of my former bosses, and running Moto America, of course, with the bikes. And I'm sure he'll be watching in today, as are, I know, the social media pods of the circuit itself. So we welcome you aboard and welcome you to Trans Am. If you're new to Trans Am, Ben, how different will it be? Because most of these guys run either Mustangs, Dodges, Corvettes, of course, but everybody's seemingly getting to grips pretty easily with this Corvette.
Yeah, and you know what? You look at the leaderboard, and there aren't many surprises. We have 6-time champion Ernie Francis Jr. in 3rd place. Josh Hurley and Tyler Kucera, who are both on VR headsets, in 1st and 2nd. JP Southern in 4th. Edward Savajian, who's always one of the fastest, and SVRA, who just joined TA2 last season and did really well. Then Dylan Archer. Thomas Merrill, who won at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca here last year in TA2, is in 7th. Nick Racino from Southern California, who has a lot of sim experience, in 8th. So there's no surprises. I think for a while, it took some of the drivers a while to get used to driving the sim. But I think after today, it looks like already our times are faster than they were yesterday. Tyler Kucera just pulled the fastest time I've ever seen. So I think they're adjusting very well, and this should be a great race.
Yeah, and of course, there's quite a lot up for grabs here because, 2 things is worth mentioning. Of all the other motor racing series, we were probably the luckiest because we've actually had a real round at Sebring at the end of February. So we've actually got one in the books already. That race won by Mike Skeen and also Thomas Merrill last year here at Laguna Seca, getting a win as well. You mentioned Ernie Francis Jr., 6-time champion at just 22 years of age in the real world. Not a big sim racer, but given that he won here at Laguna Seca by some 28 seconds last year, he'll really want to do it against the same competitors, but now on the game. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on in our Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship. Like I said, 8 rounds in all. We'll score it the same way as we do in Trans Am. So the winner of the first race getting 30 points, and also in qualifying, 3 points for pole, 2 points for 2nd place and 1 for 3rd. So points to be had. There is prize money at the end, or prizes at the end of the season, worth a lot of money. And really, really looking forward to this because it's given everybody a little bit of a distraction. And we know none of us want to be here. None of us want to be at home. But hey, if we can distract you and give you a little bit of fun and show you a little bit about our amazing world. We have 5 categories in Trans Am, Ben. And this is the GTLM Corvette we're looking at. But we have a TA class, a TA2 class. And of course, we still traditionally run the production cars as well.
Yeah, and the production cars are always a big hit because it's the cars that you can buy from the showroom. So we have the XGT class, which is like the Audi R8s and the Ferrari 458s, and then the SGT, lots of Porsches, and then the GT class is basically showroom cars with a roll cage put in and the safety measures, and it is really fun to watch. But this is really turning out well. Kucera is still at the top with Hurley right behind him, and then Dylan Archer. So the 3 drivers that I really consider to be sim drivers, but also pro drivers, are right at the top, right where we expect them.
Yeah, Tyler Kucera from Manheim, Pennsylvania is a big gamer. He used to be a Miata driver. We have 1 female driver, and she's from Las Vegas. Her name, Michelle Abate. She's a great character. She's got a great sim setup, too. Next level racing setup with Thrustmaster. Looking forward to seeing what she can do. If the dog keeps out of her way, she's got a chance, I reckon. She's got a beautiful Dalmatian dog, but he does like to climb up on the sim while she's racing, so that's not a good thing. I also want to mention Boris Said. Now, if you know your motor racing, you'll have watched Boris Said at the Le Mans at Daytona, NASCAR. Ooh, you name it. He's raced everything, as Boris said. He's back in Trans Am. We thought he was going to retire, but he came back out of retirement, and he has once again got together with Poncho Weaver in the real world and will be racing Trans Am. He got a second place last year at Road America. He and his son have been setting up his rig, although I believe it's pretty basic. But this is his debut in sim racing. But it's great to have the mighty Boris Said involved.
Oh, I love having Boris Said back in Trans Am. And he even mentioned yesterday in driver's meeting, which I thought was so Boris Said. He said, can we have virtual fights after the races if somebody pulls me off? And that's so Boris Said.
Still rumors that his son could be driving the car, but that really, you don't want to read everything you see on Twitter or on social media. I couldn't believe that Boris would try something like that, because Boris is an established punter, and he'll take to this like a duck to water. But I tell you what, he's going to be hard pushed. We've got about 3 or 4 drivers on the VR headsets, which some think will be an advantage, others don't. We were talking about peripheral view and what you can see. And there was a couple of guys struggling to see some of the blue flags for passing in practice and in qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see as we look down from the first corner at this beautiful track. Like I said, formed in 1957. They bought this land from the Army for some $3,000. Can you believe it? And they built it in just 60 days for $125,000. Oh, different times. Kucera then, 121.5, the fastest man out there, but only a couple of tenths quicker than Josh Hurley. Archer's up there, right where he needs to be. Racino, Francis Jr., our 6-time champion from Jupiter, Florida, is in 5th place. And another famous name, Hunter Pickett, grandson of the great Greg Pickett. Now, if you don't know who Greg Pickett is, well, just show up to a Trans Am race, because he's won a Trans Am race in 5 decades. Is that right, Ben?
I think it's 6 decades.
Is it? Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. He certainly raced last year.
Yeah, it must be something in that muscle milk. And then followed 7th place is Thomas Merrill, JP Southern, Edward Savagian, Cameron Lawrence, 2-time TA2 champion, did really well at Lime Rock, rounds out the top 10. It's a who's who of Trans Am here with our 27 starters in the field.
Welcome back to Laguna Seca, a perfect day here in Monterey, California at the iconic circuit that opened back in 1957. We are the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli, and this, in our 54-year history, is the first ever Esports Championship. We are ready to go with Tyler Kucera on the right-hand side in pole position, Josh Hurley alongside him. All professional Trans Am racers. They all know the Laguna circuit well, but this is our first race in anger in esports. Let's get ready for what should be a fascinating race as we look at every angle. They're holding them quite some time. But here come the lights for our first esports race. Out go the lights, away we go, and a little bit of wheel spin from Kucera, but he gets away well. JP Southern goes round the outside, and up the hill they come, down towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time. Tyler Kucera in the 0-1, gets into trouble, he gets hit from behind, I think, and there's drama already at the start of this race. Several cars trying to take avoiding action, and it's Francis Jr., the ironic winner last year, who is now ironically leading after all that. And John Paul Southern gets turned, but not quite around. And it's Francis, Hurley, Pickett, Lawrence, Rydquist, Southern Jr. And as we go on board with Josh Hurley down towards turn 5 for the first time, the first lap of 14, they start to climb the hill towards 6, getting all the angles of Josh Hurley, one of the most experienced drivers we've got here as they dive into turn 6 for the first time. And already Hurley starting to build on that lead as he heads to the corkscrew. But Ben, what a dramatic start. Several drivers involved.
Yeah, it was a great start. I just got word from the stewards that Bo Bors and Michelle Abate, unfortunately, were not able to get in due to technical difficulties. So we will miss them in this race, but we hope to see them in round 2, Jonathan.
Yeah, maybe it was one of Abate's Dalmatians getting tripped on the wires. She's got 101 of those, so she's got to be careful with those wires around the house. But never mind. We go back with Hurley as he completes the first lap. Francis Jr. has already crossed the line and has already built a 2-second lead. So Ernie Francis Jr. is doing exactly what he did in real life here last year. This time last year, he had a terrible start to the year, had Ernie, our 6-time champion. But he turned it all around at Laguna and never looked back and won his 6th title at the end of 2019. And he's already building on that lead, although Hurley has reeled him in just a little bit. The gap now 1.9 seconds. Pickett in 3rd place. Lawrence, now Cameron Lawrence, we've got to talk about him as we go on board with the Texan, Savagian. And we really get an insight. Oh, somebody spinning behind Savagian there. As you can see, I just got a glimpse of that in his mirror. He luckily avoided the problems behind him as he goes through 5 and up the hill. And Edward Savagian from Dallas, Texas, does quite a lot of coaching in real life as well. And there's Roger Eagleton from Hawaii, just going a little wide there at 6, but gathering it all together. Roger getting a top 5 in the preseason race at Lime Rock as he heads towards the corkscrew, but he's gone very wide there as we go back with Hurley in 2nd place. And he's trying to close in, and he's done a good job. Ben on Francis as they come towards the line again. Hurley is closing in on Francis Jr.
Yeah, I know that Ernie is probably sweating it. He got off easy there after turn 2 and turn 3 at the start, but now that he knows that Hurley's behind him, you know, and Hurley's just going to wait for him to make a mistake as they go into the Andretti hairpin.
What I love about this field is that they're all connected in some way to Trans Am, and most of them are our regular Trans Am drivers. We've got the odd ringer like Pickett and Archer and a few others, and we've also got a variance in experience and setup for their rigs in e-racing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this 8-round series that we've seen in the Lime Rock practice race and in some of the practices for Laguna Seca, that the race craft of these guys sim racing, remember, these are all actual professional racing car drivers, so when their lives are on the line, maybe they just drive a little bit differently, but here in the game they're already dialing in and are getting much smoother lines as each and every practice comes down.
Yeah, and the other neat thing about this is WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is one of the 2 tracks that our West Coast Championship and our East Coast Championship meet. But in this sim racing, they get to race together in every race. So our West Coast and East Coast competitors are becoming friends through this virtual racing like this, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's a good point. And we've got a lot of Californians out there who would claim Laguna as their home track. And as we go on board with JP Southern, one of our youngsters, came into the championship in Daytona in 2019 at the end of the last season. He's a single-seater guy. Comes from Formula 4 and then on to Formula 3. So this is a big change for him, but he's a former 5-time national kart champion. And it's good to see him doing some muscle car racing. And he looks to be enjoying
he's following Nick Racino, who's right in front of him, actually races with us in TA2 on the West Coast, and Nick won his very first race in TA2 at Auto Club Speedway in 2019.
Really good to stay on board with Southern. You can see how he's trying to keep it good. Oh, just as I say that, commentator's blind. He goes off. No, now all sorts of problems here for Hurley as well in 2nd place. He made a mistake there at 6th, and Francis Jr. ahead of him dives into the corkscrew, and the gap is less than a second. So Hurley is really getting hurly-burly down there because he's putting pressure now on Francis Jr. He made that rare mistake, but now Francis Jr. in the 26 is under pressure, the man from Florida.
Yeah, and you don't hear that often. We don't get to say that often in real life. But Ernie Francis Jr. finds himself with Josh Hurley in his mirrors coming to the drag race to the start-finish line as they make their way up the hill as Hurley tries to catch Francis.
35-year-old Hurley against 22-year-old Ernie Francis Jr.
Now we're following Tyler Kucera, who's usually one of our fastest in sims, but you can see that his car is damaged. He's in 11th place, but I expect him to work his way into the top 5 before the end of this race.
Yeah, Josh Hurley from Livermore, California, has done TA and TA2 and has raced with Lagasse and Associates for quite some time now, so he's got some good experience, Josh Hurley.
And look at that, he's got Ernie Francis right behind him. I know that Ernie Francis likes to get in the lead and stay in the lead. This is uncommon ground for Ernie Francis to be following somebody around Laguna Seca.
Yeah, it's not, Ernie likes to get out front, get some clean air and be done with it, but we'll see how he plays this, because we've got 5 laps done and they're right there with each other as they come down the corkscrew again. Early taking a really tight line, the Casey Stoner line as I call it.
But look at that, now we're with Hunter Pickett. Hunter Pickett in 3rd place is really benefiting from this great battle up front, catching up. And Hunter Pickett is one of those guys that you referenced that's Trans Am royalty. His grandfather, Greg Pickett, has won a Trans Am race in 6 decades, which is absolutely nuts to think about.
Yeah, you know when you've got a grandfather who's had 181 starts in Trans Am, you better be good. Hunter's flying the flag, but he's not a regular racer in Trans Am, so this is a real opportunity for Hunter to fly the flag for the Picketts. We go back on board with number 13, that's Winston. Doug Winston from Elmsford, New York. Hope you're doing okay up there in New York. Tough times up there, and this is a good way to get a distraction for Doug in the number 13. We welcome all of you from all over the United States and Hawaii, in Roger Eagleton's case. Tyler Kucera from Manheim, Pennsylvania. TA2 driver. He uses the VR glasses when he's racing. Do you think, it's not all of them do, that's an advantage, Ben?
Well, some of them were saying that they don't think it's an advantage, but watching their practices, Tyler Kucera and Josh Hurley, the only 2 that we know of on VR headsets, are usually our quickest. So there must be some sort of advantage, or they've just found something that the others haven't.
Like I said, we've got a variance in rigs, but we've got some really impressive rigs out there. People like Scott Borchetta, Mark Miller, who's not racing today. He's hoping to come into the championship by the 3rd round, our current champion. And Hunter Pickett, though, will by then, I'm sure, be all dialed in, and he's looking pretty good right now as he comes out of 11. Gets a little wiggle on, up to 3rd gear, and through go the top men. But it's Hurley, Francis Jr., Pickett, Lawrence, Ryquist. I haven't mentioned Carl Ryquist yet, in 5th place, just ahead of Edward Savagian in 6th. And then Racino, Eagleton, the man I mentioned from Hawaii, Roger in 8th. Then it's JP Southern 9th, and Kucera holding out the top 10. Remember, top 10 reversed for race 2.
Yeah, and it's really good racing here up front as we're now halfway through the race following 6-time champion Ernie Francis Jr. around turn 4 as he tries to catch up to Josh Hurley. But slowly, I think Josh Hurley's pulling away from the field, Jonathan.
Yeah, no question about it. He's now got 1.5 seconds on Francis, and once Francis gave up the lead, he hasn't been able to put any more pressure on. Back to Savagian from Dallas, Texas. On board with him now. Favorite turn, but you've got to be careful. That was perfectly done by Savagian. Up the hill, the Ray Hall straight. There is an overtake into the corkscrew, but you've got to be sure of it. It's easy to bump into the back of somebody as well. And then your heart goes in your mouth as you drop down some 5 elevator floors down to the bottom and through Rainy. And then down towards turn 10 and the final corner, turn 11. These muscle cars making a beautiful sound around the Monterey Hills. Ben and I have been here all week and played a bit of virtual golf at Pebble Beach. I beat him by about 6 strokes virtually.
Yeah, I had to buy you dinner too. That was it was a great dinner though, wasn't it?
Well, talking of dinners, I believe that Claggett is no expenses paid down on the wharf tonight for everybody, and that's good news. So we look forward to that moment there by Bo Borders, I think. No, that's
we haven't mentioned Cameron Lawrence, but Cameron Lawrence, 2-time TA2 champion, is in 4th place, right there behind Hunter Pickett, and he's doing good. He did really well with this at our first exhibition round at Lime Rock, and now here he is in top 4.
Yeah, as we go back, somebody's had a problem there. Is that Pickett going off? We see Savagian, but I think that was maybe Pickett making a mistake there. But we're now getting to the halfway point of this race. And it's worth explaining some of the rules. If you do damage the car, as you can see a little bit of damage on the outside, it doesn't actually stop you or force you into the pits or anything like that. The damage isn't full. But what we will find, and what the gamers have told us, we do have our race director watching on, is that if you have bumped the car badly or crashed into another car badly, you will lose top speed. And therefore, some of the drivers who were involved in that race turn 1 and turn 2 incidents may well be underpowered at the moment. Francis Jr. having no such problems. Cameron Lawrence, definitely one of the favorites, as you mentioned. Cameron from Austin, Texas. And Peterson Racing, he effectively is the new Rafa Matos in that respect, racing for Doug Peterson and the 3-Dimensional Services team. And by the way, shout out to 3-Dimensional Services. They are making products for the COVID cause and making special shields, face shields for their area and helping the healthcare workers do their job on the front lines. And therefore, Trans Am very much involved. This isn't just a bit of fun. We've got a lot of our drivers very much in the real world involved in helping with COVID. So I'm really happy, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, you know, Jonathan, I'm really impressed as we ride along with Hunter Pickett. He's got a lot of poise and style and grace. I really hope his grandfather, Greg Pickett's watching, and we'll put him in a TA car soon, because this kid has a lot of skill as he follows our champion, Ernie Francis Jr., around this track, and looks like he's gaining on Ernie Francis.
Well, I'll say one thing for the Picketts. They're ever youthful. I think I saw Greg at Road America last year, and he was still racing in his sixth generation or sixth decade of racing in Trans Am. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's got to be something in that muscle milk, because he just keeps going. And I know that he's wanting to race in the next decade, wants to win a TA race in the next decade. And that will be a record that will just be unbreakable.
Going back to the rules again, Ben, I mentioned the top speed losing out if you have a problem, but also if you try to cut corners and continue to do so, you will be penalized. I think you get a couple of chances. It's like any race series, and we do have, like I said, a race director watching this race carefully, able to use all the camera angles and replays they want. And the heaviest penalty you could get would be effectively extra weight at the next round, and nobody would want that, because you're starting effectively at a disadvantage.
Yeah, but right here at the corkscrew is one of the rules is they can't cut the corkscrew. They can't come across that blue stripe, but 5 times. If they do that more than 5 times, they will have to serve a drive-through penalty into the pit. So everybody's being careful to run the actual racing line through the corkscrew.
Whoa, somebody come off there. Luckily, Pickett just avoids him, but it's upset him because they can see him fighting the wheel to stay on the line, but somebody went off at 10 and he had to take avoiding action. But Hunter Pickett doing a really good job of staying in there. And it's the all turquoise blue car. I'm going to try to see the number. He's got damage to the rear wing. Is it 90?
Oh, Jordan Burnlower.
Jordan Burnlower. Ah, yeah. Okay.
One
so
of our TA2 drivers. And look at all that damage.
To the rear wing, yeah. Well, that's going to slow him down for sure.
Yes, it is. His rear hatch is open as we follow along with Ernie Francis Jr., desperately trying to get Josh Hurley. But I think also Hunter Pickett and his mirrors could really give Ernie a run for his money.
You know, Ernie Francis Jr. is a wily fox. He may be a youngster, but he's been racing so many years. And what he tends to do is see how many laps there are doing, and he'll see the lap traffic up ahead as well. And he might just push in the closing stages of this one. The gap's 3.5 seconds between himself and Hurley. And with Pickett in third, a couple of seconds behind. Really, we're looking at a Hurley-Francis battle to the end. Well, there's somebody cutting across the corkscrew. Now, he'll get away with it one time, especially if there was somebody else involved in that. But it will be noted, as you said. And that's when, if you do it too many times, you could get penalized. As we go back with Cameron Lawrence. He's got some damage to the left-hand side of that car. On board now with Cameron. Usually drives a Chevrolet Camaro. And he became the youngest Trans Am champion, winning 8 out of 10 races back in 2013. And then was 2014 champion too. So it's great to have him back in Trans Am. course, he took part in the Sebring race. We did have one race, and I think that's the hardest part for all these guys is the fact that we've had a race at Sebring, Ben. You know, we were, before the virus came out, we actually went racing, which not many series were able to do, including Formula One. So I think it's made it worse that we locked them all up and said, right, now you can't race. And thankfully, this has been a real respite to get out there again and go racing.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking to them on the phone, and they've been having a blast. We've been in Zoom conferences with them, and they just want to race. And you can see it, that they are racing this race like a race, and you know that they're out of breath or white-knuckling. I talked to Edward Savagian after one of his races, and he talked about how tiring it was to race a 14-lap race in his sim, and you can see that here on track.
Yeah, and after we were talking about Cameron Lawrence, well, after Sebring, he's second in the championship on 29 points, just behind Mike Skeen, who won the race, the man from Charlotte, North Carolina. Rafa Matos was third, Boykeberg, Anderson, and Doug Peterson actually in the top 6. And now Cameron Lawrence, of course, racing for Doug here at Laguna Seca.
So, Jonathan, one of the most interesting things is about to happen. We have our leader, who has no damage, coming up to lap traffic. And now do the guys that are being lapped, do they know that he's behind them? And will he get through cleanly with only 2 laps to go?
Let's have a look at the blue flag, see if we can see them waving, because you're absolutely right. This is critical now for Hurley not to get slowed down, but it's also critical for potentially Francis to make a move. As we go back with Cameron Lawrence, the man we were talking about just a moment ago. Here's Edward Savagian in the number 12. He's currently in 5th place. Time running out, though. Moment for Racino as he just puts a wheel on the dirt, and that can be lethal here at Laguna. Very dusty and dry here in Monterey, California. Beautiful part of the world. Majestic part of the world. There's JP Southern. 8th position for him. That makes it good for race 2 for JP. And Lagasse Jr., I think, is quietly going to accept 10th place and put himself in a position for a race win. There is Scott Lagasse Jr., one of our regulars. Just cruising around on his own.
Explain the inverted grid and why Lagasse might want to finish 10th and might be happy with that.
Yeah, what we decided to do with 2 races of 14 laps is invert the top 10. Ooh, somebody going wide behind Nick Racino. So basically, we'll have a reverse top 10. So therefore, the man in 10th place, Lagasse, if he stays there, should start pole for the second race. Racino crosses the line. We're now on the final lap here in the first ever 2020 Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship. Jonathan Green and Ben Sissel bringing you the action from Laguna. Hopefully a good distraction for you, as none of us can go real racing at the moment. We're enjoying finally getting away and doing something to distract and have some fun. But there is a serious prize of a Trigon trophy to be had. Don Claggett, the president of Trans Am, offering that up, a real live trophy at the end of the season, so absolutely worth going for it. And right now, it's Josh Hurley, the 35-year-old Josh Hurley, leading the way by 1.9 seconds. Francis Jr.'s got traffic, and it's going to be tough to get through that as he comes down, as we go on board with Ernie. Look at him fighting the wheel and trying desperately at Rainey to get an inside move, but he can't do it. Time running out, and it's going to be Hurley. And it's been a cracking race by Josh Hurley. And I don't think Francis can offer anything at the moment, and he's going to have to accept it. And to the line and to the checkered flag comes Josh Hurley to win the first ever Esport Trans Am race in our 54-year history. Francis Jr. weaves his way through to second place, but Pickett had caught up and was almost chomping at the bit to get past Francis as they came to the line, but Francis, it looks like, held him off to second place. Pickett will take third. That's your podium. Cameron Lawrence in 4th position. Racino 5th. Savagian in 6th place. Carl Reitquist takes 7th. JP Southern in 8th position. Kucera, the number 1, the man who started pole, will finish 9th. And Scott Lagasse Jr., which will make an interesting start for the reverse top 10. As Borchetta now coming to the line in 11th place. Good result for the man from Nashville, Tennessee, as he crosses the line just ahead of number 11 Wood. Then it's Atwell, Parsons, Winston, and Boris said in his first E-race, not changing the world, but he'll get himself dialed in, will the mighty Boris. But well done to Josh Hurley. Great race. Really, really good.
Oh, man.
He just
Jonathan.
did a foot wrong. Yeah.
What a great first round in this Trans Am Torque Esports race. I was so excited. The last 2 races, man, I was here like biting my fingernails. That was really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and look at the racecraft, how it's improved from the practice and the pre-season race at Line Rock. A lot of crashes because people were just still getting themselves dialed in. And like I said, these are professional racing drivers, and take away the danger, and they're all chomping at the bit to beat each other. But they realize you can't just crack into each other all the time. But there we see it, looking up the Corkscrew here at Laguna Seca. A beautiful day and some great racing to kick us off in our first race of 2020 and the Esports Championship. Congratulations to Josh Hurley then. Confirmation of the results. 19-minute, 28-second race, and he finishes 3 seconds ahead of Eddie Francis Jr. Pickett, Lawrence, Racino, Sebastian, Rydquist, Southern, Tyler Kucera 9th, and Scott Lagasse Jr. rounding out the top 10. Congratulations to Borchetta and Wood, Atwell, Parsons and Winston. All good scoring. We're doing our same points as we do in the Trans Am series, so there's points for qualifying as well as the races. 3 points to the winner. So that's the first race in the bag. We come back in a moment for our reverse top 10 race 2 from Laguna. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Monterey, California, the 2020 Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship. Jonathan Green and Ben Sissel bringing you the action from the famous Laguna Seca circuit. Now we've got a reverse top 10 as the lights go on. Out they go. They held it for a while. Quite a lot of wheel spin. And away we go, and it's going to be tight going into the Andretti hairpin for the first time, and a full field of Trans Am roars into action. And let's see if they can sort themselves out through this very important first turn. Great angle to see. Somebody going slightly wide, but everybody cleanly through as we go on board with Tyler Kucera through turn 3, and he's in 3rd place at the moment, but you can see in his mirrors, look at how many people are behind him. Through turn 4, 4th gear through there. Now everybody's starting to sort themselves out. JP Southern got a great start. Lagasse Jr., who of course was top 10, drops to 2nd place. Kucera's there, he's 3rd. Sebastian is 4th. Racino, Hurley, the race 1 winner, is in 6th place already. Also going forward, Thomas Merrill. Now Merrill, this time last year in the real race, went from the back bend all the way to the front. Do you reckon you do it again this time?
You know, maybe. Thomas Merrill's one of the most talented drivers that we have, and he is from Salinas, which is just about 4 miles from this track. He can hear the track from his house, and he's out here now racing virtually with us at Laguna Seca. But really, the one to watch right now is Tyler Kucera. Didn't really do much in the last race, but man, he has started strong this race.
Look at this start. There is nothing between. Literally, you could throw a blanket over the top 20. Fantastic start to the race. And they are dialed in as they dive over the crest of turn 1 to start lap 2. It is JP Southern, Kucera, Sebastian up to 3rd. Lagasse Jr. 4th now. Hurley, Racino, Merrill, Lauren, Archer. Great to see Archer in the number 9. Dylan Archer of Keller, Texas, up there. And you know the Archers, Ben, famous name in Trans Am racing.
Yeah, we've got some Trans Am royalty here with Dylan Archer, the son of Bobby Archer, his uncle's Tommy Archer. Then we have Hunter Pickett, who had a great showing in race 1, who is the grandson of Greg Pickett. And then we have Trans Am royalty with Boris Said out there in the 06 yellow Corvette. Boris Said, one of my favorite drivers in Trans Am history, is just having a great time doing this.
Yeah, and Boris is another one of these guys who's fairly new to sim racing, but of course is a legend when it comes to NASCAR, Trans Am. He's raced pretty much everything, IMSA, Le Mans, you name it. And now we
Tyler Kucera just took the lead over JP Southern, took the dive into the corkscrew, and is now leading the race right ahead of JP Southern.
Yeah, that is very impressive by Kucera, because Southern, I think, was taken by surprise there. He'd been leading nicely from the start of the race, and now, as you say, Tyler Kucera, here they come, has got that lead. Now, can he come back at him? Because I think if I were JP, and I know how good Tyler's can be, I mean, at a pole position, I think I'd want to come back at him quickly. They dive.
Yeah, you can't let Kucera get away from you. You got to keep him in, because once he gets in, like we said, he's on that VR headset, he gets into a rhythm, he can take off.
Yeah, and we look back from Kucera now, and you can see, whoa, moment there from Southern, just got a little bit leery. And that's given him another car length ahead now, Kucera. And you're right, he's trying to build on it now, going through the very fast next left-hander. 4th gear through here, and then building up towards turn 6 and the run up the hill. But very close indeed between the top men. Here they come towards 6. Nice line by Kucera. And that's very smooth indeed. Good battles all the way through here. Thomas Merrill coming through. He's up to 6 now. Lagasse down to 7. A little bit of a cut there from Kucera, but not enough, I think, to alert the stewards. And on board. Great sound, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great sound.
So good.
We follow along with an experienced Corvette driver, but in the Vintage Series, Edward Savajian from Texas, as he now knows Josh Hurley's behind him, and Josh won the race 1. So here he goes, knowing that he's got Hurley behind him, but JP Southern in front of him. And I know that Edward Savajian wants to finish on the podium here at Laguna Seca.
As I mentioned before, we're using the same points system that we do in Trans Am, which is 30 points for first, 27 for second, and therefore the 2 races will have about 16 rounds, and of course you get points 3 for pole position and 2 for second place, 1 for third, so there's a lot of opportunity here to score. Boris Said down in 14th position there in the 06. Make his way through. He's ahead of Lawrence, interestingly enough. I'm surprised to see Cameron Lawrence as far back as that, because pre-season he was the man to beat.
Yeah, and Boris Said, you know, in real life and in virtual life, he's hard to pass.
Well, he's having to suck it up a little bit, is Boris, because the man advising him is his son. He runs the BMW dealership down the road, but when he's at home, the son's in charge of the gaming.
Oh.
And Savajian gets a little touch. That was a bit of a moment there. They might say something about that. What do we say in Trans Am? I don't know. That Robbins racing, but that was a little bit aggressive in my book.
Yeah, it's not the first time that Boris Said has had to visit the steward's office after a race. But, you know, we were talking about this COVID-19, and we spoke to him on the phone. And Boris Said, like we said, he owns BMW of Murrieta, California. And all 200 of his employees are still working for him through this. So he said he feels like it's his duty to keep his employees employed, and we applaud that.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with doing that. That's not easy in these conditions to keep your employees, and well done to him. Jokingly in the driver's briefing, he was asking where he could go for a virtual fight if he got upset with somebody.
Yeah, and we need to build that into the game, because that's realistic with Boris Said.
Thomas Merrill then. As you say, one of our big talents as we go back with Ernie Francis Jr. Ernie in 8th position at the moment. Not the race he wanted, and certainly nothing like 2019 where he roared to an almost 30-second win. I don't think that's going to happen today.
Yeah, but something you mentioned, another one of our legends. I mean, you look at this board, it is full of Trans Am legends, and I know we keep saying this, but these are actual Trans Am pro racers or Trans Am royalty racing out here, and they have all different sim experience, but we've been practicing with them for a few weeks, and they keep getting better and faster. And this racing, I forget that we're watching a sim. I'm calling a race, Jonathan. How about you?
Yeah, I totally feel that way because, you know, racing drivers are racing drivers. They'd race to the corridor. They'd race to the toilet if they had a chance. I mean, you know, it's you put them knowing that they're not just racing against sim racer names that don't mean anything. These guys know each other. They may not be in the same vicinity or in the same zip code right now, but they know each other like the back of their hand. They've raced each other year on year, and in some cases they have never raced against each other, because some of them are TA drivers like Ernie Francis Jr., and some of them, like JP Southern, are TA2 drivers. So it really is a combination. Ernie Francis Jr. won the first race in TA ahead of Tommy Dreesy and Amy Ruman at Sebring back in February, and Mike Skeeton, as I mentioned, beat Cameron Lawrence and Thomas Merrill, the man you mentioned. He was third in qualifying for Sebring, and so yeah, there's a lot of guys with a lot of reasons want to get one over on each other. Yeah. And it might be a sim race, and it may not be quite like the real thing, but I can assure you they're just as competitive. We're getting to the halfway point now, Ben. Diving through turn 10, a little moment there for Kucera, but no problems. He's managed to eke out 4 seconds, but I wouldn't say he's counting his chickens just yet.
Yeah, the beauty of this, I think the camaraderie in the Trans Am paddock is the best in any form of racing. And we've been privy, it's been kind of an honor to be privy to these text exchanges between all these drivers with this game and this Torque Esports game that they've developed for us. We thank them for that. But it's really fun to see the trash talking that's happening in these text exchanges. Maybe one of these future races we'll be able to share some of that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that for sure. We've been having some fun in the driver briefings, that's for sure, because everybody's getting used to having to do a Zoom conference effectively to get there. But when we get everybody involved, it gets a lot of fun, I can assure you. Looking forward to getting Michelle Abate back in it, and Mark Miller.
Yeah, Michelle Abate and Bo Borders, we just heard word from the stewards that they just had trouble signing in and just couldn't get into the game on time. We're so sorry about that. We've loved having you guys on board, and we hope to see you guys in the next round.
Yeah, she sent me a picture of her setup. The Next Level Racing sponsor her, and she's got a really pretty impressive setup, and so I know she's raring to go. We've been watching Racino and Ridequist, two of the guys we expect to show during this championship, no question about it. They've got some experience, and that's what's been really interesting learning about this, is just how many guys have either not got any sim experience like Boris, but are great racers, and guys that have grown up racing, and actually some of them even coaching. And in the case of Mark Miller, he's all the way up and sponsored by Simcraft, and then actually teaches on that and coaches on that. And so yeah, you've got real variance of guys who've got experience in esports or not.
Yeah, following along with Edward Savajan, like I mentioned, he races in TA2 with Trans Am, just started a couple of seasons ago, but also races a vintage Corvette, about an 850 horsepower vintage Corvette with no brakes, no power, anything. And so when he gets into a TA car like this, it feels pretty much like his no control, no power assist or driver assist aids. And he's doing really well in the sims, and I know he's taking it really seriously because he texts me about once a day the things that he's doing. So it's been really fun for these guys to give him something to do in this break.
Yeah, he was telling me he was building his rig around a Logitech G27, not a bad bit of kit, and yeah, he's been preparing for this, and as you mentioned, he's the 2019 VROC champion, so yeah, definitely one to watch. The man from Redfoot Racing and Duntoff Motors, that's his real life job, and he does a little bit of coaching, but Duntoff is a big part of his life.
Like you said, his dad raced in Trans Am back in the Willie T. Ribbs days, and it was neat. He won the VROC championship with his partner, Willie T. Ribbs, Trans Am royalty.
Yeah, talking of Willie T, if you haven't been on Netflix, come on, you've got plenty of time to watch it. If you haven't watched Uppity, fantastic film, UPPITY, all about Willie T's racing career, and it's just electric. It's one of the best movies I've seen and racing for a long time, and that's saying something. So congratulations to Adam Carolla and the team that put that together with Willie. Fantastic racing coverage, and really a real insight into what the history of Trans Am is all about and what part Willie T. Ribs played in it. Now, here's the future of Trans Am racing, JP Southern. Let's go on board with him up the hill, a little bit of a wiggle there. You can see how much power you can put down in these cars, and that's what I love about Trans Am. You've got more power than you need. If you want to wreck the tires, well, that's your problem. If you want to stay smooth and you want to keep it all together, then you may have a little bit of tire left at the end of the race. And
yeah, so now we're on board.
Old school racing, Ben.
I love that fall down the corkscrew, but we were on board with Josh Hurley here, who won our last race. Josh is always fast in a real TA car with us, and TA2, but then always fast in these sims as he's trying desperately to catch up to Edward Savagian. But I know Edward, he can make his car really wide and hard to pass.
Well, as we get down to the 10th lap now, I'm going to keep an eye on JP Southern. He's 4 seconds adrift. There he is, just crossing the line now. And can he maybe use the back markers? Because I would have thought that Tyler will start to get into the back markers very soon indeed. When that happens, that's a chance for JP, and it's already happening. So that will be a chance for JP to maybe close down on Tyler Kucera. Back with Ernie Francis Jr. He's in a good battle too.
Yeah, we do see you mentioned the back markers, but we did see the back marker get out of the way. That was something that was covered in the driver's briefing, so we really appreciate that, to be aware of what's going on around the track and to get out of these guys' way. We don't want to wreck anybody else's race either.
And I think it's harder in sim racing to get out of the way because you're concentrating, when you're physically out there, obviously you see it in your mirrors, you can hear it, all the rest of it. Whereas in sim racing, you're not necessarily too worried about what's behind you, but you've got to be, and that, like you say, was brought up in the drivers' meeting. Oh, when you ride down the corkscrew like that, you really get a sense of it. All the way down the hill. It's a long way down. Time running out, though. And Sebastian looking for a podium, but he's got to be careful. Hurley Burley is right there. So too Thomas Merrill. He's up to 5th now. Racino 6th. Ernie Francis Jr. 7th. Lagasse 8th. Wouldn't want to be Edward Savagian right now because he's got a lot of very good pedalers behind him.
He sure does.
On to lap 11. The gap still 4.7.
This is great racing, but notice Josh Hurley came from the back, worked his way through the field, and I don't see any damage on his car. The top 5 drivers seem to have no damage, and that's a secret because if you have no damage, you can keep your top speed and the car still runs really well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's the only. We've got damage limitations so that we want to get everybody to the finish. But if you do have a hit, if you do go off and you do get damage, then you'll lose a little bit of top speed, and that can be quite deceptive. Some of the cars look very clean. Some of them don't look as though they're that damaged, but they may not be getting their all-out top speed completely. So Savagian back up the hill again. In 3rd place. Some work to do. Hurley right there with him. Merrill, Racino. That's the battle we're watching. Down
look at that drop. I love watching the drop down the corkscrew. This is such a great angle because here we've got Hurley chasing Savagian, and this is for podium. Edward Savagian is trying desperately to hold on to the podium, and Hurley's just methodically working his way through as they pass the lap traffic here at Doug Winston.
Great job with that back view. You really do get the reflections. The game itself is really amazing. It's like being here. It really is. It's incredible. We've been here a bunch of times before in real life, and I've done bike racing and car racing here over the years, and it really is just a joy to be in the Monterey Peninsula and come racing here. Great job. The circuit was opened way back in 1957. There's such history here. Would you believe it? Darrell Shelby and his last ever race here at the famous Laguna Seca.
So watch this. This is Thomas Merrill, who we mentioned before, who's from here. Worked his way through the field of about 30 cars last year to finish 1st. And now here he is in 5th place trying to catch up to Josh Hurley, who doesn't put a wheel wrong. That's going to be really tough for Thomas to pass him on this track with only 2-3 laps to go, Jonathan.
Yep, exactly, and it's going to get down to the nitty-gritty. We've got Kucera, Southern, and Savagian. That's your top 3. Then it's Hurley, Merrill, Racino. An 8-round championship. We've got a long way to go. After this, we're heading to Road Atlanta, another cracking classic circuit here in the United States. And we go back on board with 4th place Hurley through the last corner. Got to get good drive out of that last corner. It could be imperative if you're trying to make an overtake or trying to stay away, in this case, from the man behind you. Hurley trying to hold off Merrill. But now with just 2 laps to go. Can Sebastian close in on Southern? Look at the gap. Not much in between them.
No, the race from 2nd to 8th place is so close. This could go any way right now, as now they're going to start taking risks that they normally wouldn't take in a normal race, because now it's just getting down to the wire.
Well, it's a combination of a lighter fuel load and, of course, using those tires. How much have you used them? How much have you had to use them? And how much grip have you got left? It's slippy, this circuit, even in a sim race. Dusty, dry, California sunshine. This is where they grow all the grapes. It's wine country. It's the Pacific. It's the greatest golf courses in the world. What more could you ask for? And pure, out-and-out muscle cars pounding round the famous Corkscrew and Laguna Seca. Racino on board now, and down the hill he comes. Nobody behind, and his eyes focused on in front as they go through Rainy. Now through turn 10, the very fast right-hander. Easy to get wrong and go wide there. And just about perfect by Racino. And then you've got to brake very hard and get on the gas early onto the main straight on that last corner, turn 11. Onto the final lap then. It's been a perfect day so far. We've hardly seen him, the number 1, Tyler Kucera. What a picture he has made. And he has just kept himself perfectly clean. And they'll be celebrating in Mannheim, Pennsylvania, with their pots and pans out of the windows tonight. Not just celebrating the healthcare workers, but celebrating their own man, because Tyler Kucera, the TA2 man, sponsored by Howe Racing Enterprises and WeatherTech Brakes, he's doing the business.
Oh, this is fun to watch.
Lead.
Let's see if Edward Savagian can get by Southern, but all while I'm saying that, you see that Hurley and Merrill are having a battle back there. So the battle from 2nd to 5th and 6th place is going to be, I think it's going to change a little bit, maybe. But it's about to get crazy up here, Jonathan, with just a few tracks.
Yeah, and there's a lot of points up for grabs in that top 10. There's no question about it. If you can just grab one more place, ooh, nice and good line through there over the manhole cover. But he's going to make it. Final lap then in our 2nd Trans Am by Pirelli Esports Championship, round 2. Effectively the 2nd race of the year. And here comes Tyler Kucera. What a result! Tyler Kucera, the man from Pennsylvania, takes the checkered flag and wins in style by over 6 seconds. JP Southern is 2nd, and Edward Savagian of Dallas, Texas takes 3rd place. So it's Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas. That's how it finished. Merrill will just finish 5th behind Hurley. It's been a good weekend here at Laguna for Josh Hurley, the 35-year-old, with another good result. That's going to put him right at the top of the table. And just to confirm, further down, Racino taking 6th, Ernie Francis Jr. 7th. We go on board with Bernard. We'll finish a little further down in, 12th position? Just behind Lawrence. And rounding out the top 10, Hunter Pickett. And good result also for Scott Lagasse Jr., who improves to 7th place, holding off his arch rival.
Jonathan, aren't you impressed with the skill and the driving that we've seen today? The racing has been way better than I expected. You know, knowing that our drivers don't have a ton of experience in sims, man, they've caught on quick, and that was quite some good racing we've seen today.
Yeah, and not like some of the big World Championship events where they're all on exactly identical kit. Everybody's got different rigs, everybody's coming at different distractions, everybody's at home with their families. This is not an easy thing to do. We've got drivers like Roger Eagleton in Hawaii. We've got guys like our winner, Tyler Kucera, in Pennsylvania, in Mannheim. And Boris said, just making sure he's going to give Pancho Weaver some work to do at the end of the day by smashing it into the wall. But great racing, and confirmation of Tyler Kucera with a +6 second win. Really impressive. And that's going to set us up nicely.
Yeah, Jonathan, I can't wait to see the text exchanges that happens between these guys.
Well, and after that performance, I would say, I would have thought they're all chomping at the bit now. We'll get some other drivers involved as well. We know that our current champion, Mark Miller, is hoping to make it back for round 3. But there's confirmation of race 2's results. Tyler Kucera with the win over JP Sutton Jr. Edward Savagian in 3rd place. Josh Hurley, the winner of the first race, in 4th place. Then Merrill 5th, Racino 6th, Francis Jr. 7th, Lagasse Jr. in 8th, Ryquist 9th, Pickett in 10th place, and then Lawrence, Bernlau, Atwell, Parsons, Oskowski in 15th place ahead of Scott Borchetta. Boris said in 17th place. Great fun and a lot of good racing. As you say, the racecraft really improving from our pre-season start at Lime Rock and now to our first 2 races of the season here at Laguna Seca. I think hats off to both the organizers and the drivers. A great distraction. We hope you enjoyed it, the fans, and we realize that it's not the racing we want to bring you. And check out and definitely download the Trans Am app and the SVRA app if you want to see what's going on with the latest news from Tony Pirella and from John Claggett on what will be happening in real life with both championships. My thanks to Ben Sissel. I'm Jonathan Green. Join us next time out at Road Atlanta for round 2.